Coding is basically problem solving, coming up with clever ways to make things happen on a screen. Sometimes you can first try to get things done by using a lot of force. Like in the Stone Age, cavemen tried to move big chunks of stone by dragging them along the ground with a lot of force. Now, modern people put wheels on their heavy things, and that requires less force. And that's a very good way to solve a problem. Computers are really not smart. They can't do anything unless we tell them what to do. But that's where it gets all exciting. We come up with clever ways to solve something, and the computers are really good at following our instructions. But be careful not to give them the wrong instructions. And with games, we have many clever things we must figure out. Like what happens if a player pushes a button, or what happens if she doesn't, and what happens when a character runs into a block of stone. Can we guess what the player will do in advance and prepare for it? So why is making games just as fun as playing them? Because it is really clever problem solving.
I think storytelling adds depth and fun to games. When we know a little bit more about the characters, playing games makes more sense. Or it's just that much more fun. Like the small story of the bad piggies stealing the eggs and therefore the birds being angry. So now it makes perfect sense shooting birds from a slingshot at the piggies and crushing all kinds of stuff at the same time, especially when we know why they're doing it. That is called motivation. The piggies' motivation is that they're hungry. That's why they want to steal the eggs, and the birds want to get their eggs back. When we know the motivation, many other things come easily to imagine. Also, another important thing is the goal. As a player, you want to know what is your goal. In the Angry Birds, the goal is to get the eggs back by defeating the pigs. So storytelling is the fine art of adding important information to make the game feel more interesting and to get the player to understand and want the right things. If we are successful, you will want to know what happened. Did you win? Did the pigs manage to steal the eggs? And it seems that the answer is no.
If computers aren't very clever, but they're good at following rules, then what kind of rules do the coders give them? A simple way of telling the computer what to do is to give them instructions. These are what we call conditionals. That's basically letting it know that if something is true, do this, and if not, do something else. That way, the computer always knows what to do next. For example, we can give an instruction that if I'm talking, the pig must stand still. But if I'm quiet, he should jump. And if I clap, he should go away. We can also combine conditionals. But then we must be prepared that a lot can happen. So the important thing is to keep in mind that your conditionals must be simple enough, or you may just end up surprising yourself.
Games would be far less exciting without sound design. Even though what happens on screen takes our attention, the sounds amplify the experience. Even the simplest of games have music, and the music can make the game more fun in various ways. It can create a feeling of busyness, or relaxing, music brings emotion. And theme music can be so recognizable that when you hear it, you automatically start thinking about the game world. There's almost always sound effects. And the sound also guides the player in a subtle way. Like when you press a button, you don't actually press a button, but just touch a point on the screen. The button makes a clicking sound, and there is a small animation. And sounds create atmosphere. The ice desert feels colder when the wind is howling. Or this little sound makes it feel really hot. If you listen carefully, there are all kinds of sounds in a game. Let's take an example. First, you pull the slingshot. Then the release. The birds make a funny noise mid-air. And finally, when they hit the target, a big crash. Sometimes the sound needs to be subtle. And sometimes the sound has to almost be explosive to fit in what's happening on the screen.
There are many things to calculate when coding games, so knowing a little bit of math is pretty important. Most mobile games have all kinds of shapes and distances and forms, so a bit of trigonometry goes a long way. And of course, there's forward movement, so understanding speeds and distances can come in handy. For instance, if we want to launch a piggy into space, we need to know the starting point and end point of where the piggy will land. So to do so, we'll have to use math to calculate distances and angles. Math can help us with a lot of things in coding. Behind the scenes, we instruct computers to carry out all kinds of calculations, such as the speed in which a car is moving, or the probability that you'll get 2 bad piggies in a draw. And of course, there's scoring points, adding and occasionally subtracting to a score, multiplying and dividing. So there are uses for all kinds of math.
Let's take a look at how game characters are designed. The first step comes really together with the game designer. We discuss what the game will be like, what role each character has in the game, and try to figure out what kind of personality they might have. It's not enough to say the character's a bad pig. I want to know, is he a scientist, a king, a stupid soldier, or maybe a professor? So to get the personality right, we start drawing. Try to add the unique thing, even though we know that in the game, all the fine details don't necessarily show. Back in the studio, we create what is called key art, really big paintings with a lot of detail and colors. And here's the secret. If we know why Professor Big has certain character traits, we can take something visual and make that his trademark. It can be color, shape, size, a prop like a hat or a cane. Then when we scale down the gameplay, we know exactly which pig is the professor, and that will help the game be more fun to play. Then we take the character art and start building it in a digital studio. The character does not only need to look right, but also have the distinctive ways of moving, or otherwise reacting to elements. And that's a really cool part of character design, especially with pigs. We need to think how they bend, stretch, shake at different type of funny situations.